way that you look at me, yeah, I'm amazing. I'm leaving the game with the same ones I came with. I'd rather be paid, I don't need to be famous. When I'm in the ring, they say I'm a ringer. Spin your head like an hour when I sing a singer.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
What
Welcome on in to our latest installment of the My Take, Your Take podcast. Myself, Triple Crown Media, and Mel Simmons here today to bring you guys the best with the Mets. How you doing, Mel?
Man, I'm doing good, man. It's a good week for me going so far. So excited to do this podcast today. We got a banger for them, so people are going to be very, very entertained with our over/under podcast today.
Yeah. And before we get started, just want to remind everybody, if you're watching on Twitch, give us a follow. If you're watching on YouTube, try to leave a like, comment, and possibly sub if you enjoyed the podcast. So, yeah, what stats we going over under first? It's up to you. Up to you.
Well, the premise of the show today was to go over our team totals from last year that the Mets had. I think a lot of you guys would be surprised on where the Mets placed and total team numbers for some of these categories. I know I was surprised when I looked at a couple of them. We're going to give our opinion on whether we think the Mets have finished higher, lower, or the same on these lists. And we'll be going over team stats for batting and for pitching. So it's going to be a good one, man. I mean, we're looking at batting average, and the Mets was second in the league last year in batting average. Similar roster this year, similar players. Maybe we have the young guys out there. What you think? Can they maintain? They can only go up one more than number one with the team batting average, or will they drop? What you got?
I'm getting more and more excited with you saying that. I'm getting more and more excited for Brett Baty. The more I'm learning about what he's been doing in the offseason, he's been working with a bunch of veteran, and obviously he's got to put it out on the field. But he's working with a bunch of veteran third basemen right now, and I feel like him slotting in plus our other rookies will definitely, I think for a bit, the overall team average, if we're talking about just like statistics, I think the team average might be a little lower this year. But then, it might be lower to start, but as the season progresses, I think we'll pick up I think we're looking at almost an identical season to last year, honestly. Like in a lot of categories, I don't see us going much above or below, because last year it really was a middle of the road season for most of our players. Like none of our players had outstanding seasons, but none of them had bad seasons. So it's like you would think that the law of averages would average out, and a couple players are going to slump for the year. A couple players are going to have a really good year, and then we'll probably have a couple that'll stay middle of the road. So in my personal opinion, I think like for batting average, for example, I think for that, I mean, we as a team hit 260, 259 if you want to be exact, but I think we have full capability of sticking right around that 260 mark and even possibly leading the majors in batting average. I don't see us taking a real step off a cliff with that. How about you?
So you got them being above second place?
I got them being number one in batting average next year. Over. I got them over.
Okay. I'm just saying, call it. Say what you mean.
Over.
Don't dance with it. I got Mets. They gonna be top 5 for sure. Batting average in my eye. Can they be the second or number one? I don't know, because I still got to see how this shift rules is going to change things, and do we get more hits? I'm kind of leaning towards going with you on that. We got some disciplined hitters at the plate that the Mets could be the number one, average hitting team in the majors. So I'm going to go over on the account of the shift may enable some more hits than we got last year.
Yeah. If we're doing specifically for like over on 2, I'm still sticking with it, but I think we're pretty much a solidified top 5. I don't think we're going to drop off any farther than a top 5 overall batting average for a team.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's even if Ruff gives us anything. if Vogelback gets back on track, if they're going to be using them, Beatty, Alvarez, if they produce at a high level. I mean, we had some pretty abysmal hitting from the catcher spot last season. That's probably bringing down the average a little bit. A couple of hitters in the 200. So maybe the Mets is doing a little bit better job of getting some of those hitters out. We know what Marte going to do. We know what Lindor is going to do.
Yeah.
What Pete's going to do. We know what Jeff McNeil is going to do. We know what Brandon Nimmo is going to do. So if the others can hit better than they did last year, then they have a chance of being number one. But a lot of these other teams have gotten better too. So I'm going to go with the over. We on home runs. Mets were 15th last year in home runs, tied with the Baltimore Orioles. This is considered a weaker point with the Mets. And, I know a lot of Met fans is hurt. We didn't get the Correa because it kind of opened it up for the Mets to get a little bit more power. Where the power going to come from? Can the Mets finish over or under on the being 15th in home runs? What you got?
Over. Easy. Like, especially with the rookies coming up with it. If Eduardo Escobar isn't having an awful season like he was last year up until September. I mean, and the only thing that scares me with all of these over-unders is injuries, because we kind of got pretty lucky in regards to our main core staying healthy for the majority of the year. I mean, Francisco had his thing with his finger, and Pete got a little scared there because he got hit in the head, didn't he? Yeah, hit the helmet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also with us being last year, the most hit team in baseball, that also raises some questions when it comes to health and just being able to sustain slugging and home runs like that. But honestly, with health permitted, I think we should easily be above that halfway mark in the league, especially if we call up an Alvarez, especially if we're calling up Beatty and they're getting regular minutes. And if Darren Ruff isn't a complete zero, like if all that rings true, I think it's almost bona fide. We should be above where we were last year.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over just for the simple fact that the Mets don't really got a choice. They got to have more than 171 home runs. You're looking at the difference. The Yankees had 254. The Braves had 243. Granted, the Astros, won the World Series. They only had 214, but 214 is what 40.
43 more home runs.
Yeah, 43 home runs more than the Mets. That is a significant difference. That's RBIs. That's bringing them in at one time. So I'm going to go over on them, being at the 15, and we're going to go to RBIs. It's interesting that the Mets could be in the middle with home runs and be 6 in RBIs.
Clutch inning, in my opinion.
That speaks to the team batting average, right? That we was talking about earlier, being second in the league in batting average. So that means they're hitting with runners in scoring position, even though they're not hitting with a significant amount of power. That is impressive. That if the Mets can, hit these kind of RBI numbers and get more home runs, they could be over this sixth place. I mean, the difference between them and the Dodgers had led the league with 812 on the RBIs, and they hit a lot more home runs than the Mets. So what's your thoughts over the under on the Mets being 6 in RBI?
I mean, I think it just goes hand in hand with me thinking that I don't think I could say that we're going to go over in home runs and over in everything else that I've said and not say that I'm going to go over with RBI, because that would kind of be counterintuitive. So yeah, I'm going over just because, like, if we're hitting more home runs and we're hitting for the same average, we should get the same or higher in RBI. So unless there's a handful of teams that just completely come out of nowhere, that last season was an outlier or something, then somebody's going to come out and hit, 750 RBIs, then I don't see us taking a significant drop off. How about you?
I'm going to go even on this one, that they can remain top 6. Philly was behind the Mets. The Astros was behind the Mets in RBIs. You know, those teams are still very dangerous. Philly got better. Trey Turner. You know, can we assume that, you know, if we're going to assume that the shift rules is going to help the Mets, it may help these other teams as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of good teams on this list that's within a striking distance from 11 to 6. There's only a difference in about 50 RBIs. You know, teams don't get injuries. Teams get hot. Yeah, maybe the Mets stay at 6 on the RBIs, but still have more RBIs than they had last season. A lot of these teams are getting better. So, you know, I'm going to go even on it. If I had the choice between going over, under, going to go under if I had to pick between those two. If I could pick even, I'm going to go even.
All right. You know what's interesting already that I've kind of noticed on out of all these categories, the Toronto Blue Jays are like towards the top in almost everything too.
They were pretty good.
Yeah, they kind of were like the Mets, like kind of almost just like the Mets in the aspect of like they performed very well throughout the regular season and then kind of just took a crap at the end.
Well, I think they gave up a lot of runs. I think that's what their problem was. Didn't really have the pitching the Mets had. Stolen bases. Mets were 23rd on this one. 23rd on stolen bases with 62 of them. And they got Vogel back out there. He ain't stealing no bags. So we know that's done. Brandon Nimmo not stealing no bags. So we know that's done. Pete is only good for like 3-4 of them a year. We know that's done. And so we got Marte and Lindor on the bags. And we apparently picked up somebody on a minor league deal that's supposed to be really fast. I'm gonna go under on this one.
Yeah, same. Like either under or the same. Like if I have to, yeah, I don't see us getting better at least.
Yeah, I mean, if Brett Beatty gonna steal any bags, what you think? He got some speed.
Nope, and I also don't think Brandon Nimmo's gonna try either. Because as you saw, Brandon Nimmo tried to steal a base last year towards the end of the season. The man pulls a hammy or whatever he did.
Yeah,
Between something.
I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know. All right, total runs scored. Mets was 5th, right behind the Toronto Blue Jays. We had 775. Mets had 772 on the year. Over or under, Mets getting over being in the 5th spot.
I'm gonna say they stay the same. I'm really again like they're tied for 5th. For me, I'm trying to stay consistent because like if I'm saying that they're gonna keep up in home runs, slugging, and everything that we've already talked about, they can't have a significant drop off in run production either. Like they can't sustain staying 5th in average, second in average, 5th in slugging, or wherever they were in the top 10 basically, and then not be still at least in the top 10 in run production. But yeah, no, I don't see them falling out of the top 10. They could have a little drop off, but no, my solidified opinion is that I don't think they're dropping off. I'm going to go same or over.
I'm going under. They were tied for 5th. You got Philly, Astros. Got some teams in there, but they're definitely top 10. Yeah. My guess would be if they do drop in that 6-7 range. That would be my guess, but definitely top 10. They should be.
Nothing significant.
Yeah, they definitely should be. On base percentage, New York Mets was 2nd in this deal, only 1 point behind the LA Dodgers, 333 to 332. Over or under on base percentage. Now, listen, I think the Mets going to have they got a chance to have the best on base percentage in the league. Are they going to be top 2 or 1?
They're built for it.
I don't know, because it's like you said, if I keep going over with stuff, then we just assuming, you know what I mean, the team is going to be better all the way across the board. They already pretty high up, so they can't. It's hard to go from 2 to 1. You know what I mean?
I mean, for a lot of these, it's hard for us to go over under because most of them, they should stay relatively the same, drop off the tiniest amount, or get a little bit better. Because, like we said before, I mean, they didn't overachieve this season. They really didn't. None of them overachieved with their statistics.
Right.
So it's like you would think, because our team is built for on-base percentage. We're built for getting all those runners on. We're built for hitting ticky-tack balls like McNeil and Nimmo and even Canna drawing the walks. Right. And Marte and Lindor and Pete's, like, it's tough when all your stats, like almost every stat we've looked at so far, we're in the top 10. So it's really hard to.
This is one of the hardest ones for me, the on-base percentage, because I mean, you might as well just say they're kind of like tied with the Dodgers. I mean, 333 to 332. I mean, at one point, I'm sure it didn't make like a significant, huge difference. I mean, Toronto is pretty good being on base. You're right about them. Their name is on the top 10 of just about everything on here. Yeah. Pretty interesting. Cardinals tied with the Yankees for 4. You got Boston. I'm going to say they're going to stay the same. We should have said over, under, or at the same. Yeah. I know we didn't say that at the beginning, but I can't see them just jumping to number 1 on everything. On-base percentage is a tough one. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Let's do the team hits.
I have one more thing on the on-base percentage. I think that the number will pretty much stay the same. Whether or not somehow a team exceeds that by even more is yet to be seen, I think. I think we're going to still hover around that 333 mark. I don't think that's going to really waver.
Right.
But yeah.
So here's the thing with the hits. The Mets were 4th in hits, and the other 3 teams were pretty much non-factors as far as like a legitimate threat or what people thought would be a World Series contending team. Chicago White Sox, they didn't make the playoffs. I don't think Boston made the playoffs last year. And I believe Toronto did they? Or they missed it?
No, they made it. Did they miss?
They might have missed it last year. But Toronto's number 1 with 1464 on the hits. The Mets at 1422. Over or under on the Mets getting, moving up in the rankings.
This is gonna be such an exciting pod. They're gonna stay the same, dude. They're gonna literally stay the same.
Say, like, I kind of wish we would have did over and under. Like, do we think they will get more hits or less hits versus seeing if they would climb the rankings? Because it's kind of too difficult to say whether someone's gonna go over or climb the rankings. But we're gonna keep the podcast the same. Maybe we do another one where we go over and under the actual stats, right? Because it's just seeming really difficult to kind of gauge where the Mets will be. Will they climb past 4th or be lower? On team hits, I'm gonna say that they're gonna have more team hits. Whether that means that they climb the rankings, I'm gonna go over because they were only 5 away from 3rd place Boston and 13 away from Chicago. That's really close. So I'm going to say the Mets should get some of the most hits in the league this season, especially if we get good production out of Beatty, Alvarez, if Ruff comes back to doing what he normally does, if Vogelback is consistent for the whole year, the Mets should be on a little bit of a tear with the hitting.
Yeah, I agree, honestly.
But it's tough. I mean, that's Toronto with 1,464 hits. I mean, how many more hits do we think is going to be out there just because there's new shift rules? I'd have to look at like the historical, look at it historically, like how many hits a team normally averages per year to kind of assess like how much better the Mets could do, because 1464 hits by Toronto, that's a pretty good amount,
Yeah. You want to so I know we talked about it. I don't know. So are we doing division predictions or no? Is that something you want to save for a different pod?
Yeah, we should do that next podcast.
Okay.
Division predictions. Let's go to some of the pitching stats and give our over-unders for them.
Okay.
All right. Total team ERA, the Mets were 7 with 3.57. I think that it's probably more fair on the pitching side that this over-under is going to work a little bit more better as far as like where we think the Mets can go in the rankings.
Yeah.
So with the ERA, we had the Guardians, Braves, Rays, Yankees, Astros, and Dodgers ahead of the Mets. Can the Mets climb those rankings? If we get what we anticipate we can get out of Senga, and Cookie is serviceable again, we already know what we're going to get out of Mad Max and Verlander. They got a chance of beating that.
Oh, yeah. I think as long as nobody disappoints, like as long as, I mean, even one person on the staff can kind of disappoint and have an off year, whether that's Quintana, Carrasco, or Senga. But yeah, I really like, we weren't pitching with most of our full rotation last year for a good portion of the year, and we had that 3.57. So I really think, barring injuries, I think we should be all right. I think that's a solid over for me.
Yeah, I'm going over as well. Wins. This is another thing. Mets had 101. Braves 101. Astros 106. Dodgers 111. Over that the Mets can have top 2 in the league and wins. I'm going under on this. I still think they're going to do 100 plus wins, but I think we're going to see more 100 plus teams next season, especially with the new rules that everybody plays everybody. So the Mets are going to get a lot of wins against subpar teams, and that should increase the amount of wins. And going under 19 games against your own division, and our division is tough, so that'd have been 19 games versus the Braves, 19 games versus the Phillies versus the Marlins. So that's done. And it's only 12 now, and we play more games against other teams. So I think the Mets get over 100 wins, but I don't think that they're top 3 in wins. So I'm going under.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, honestly. I think that 2 factors play into it. I think other teams, because, I mean, if you look at that top 7, it's not a huge margin, not a huge disparity. And at the same time, I think there's also just a possibility for, your pitchers just don't get the wins at the end of the day because of the score. The relievers end up getting the wins, or the closer ends up getting the win.
This is total team wins.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. Total team wins. Dodgers had 111 wins.
Yeah.
Astros had 106. Mets and Braves had 101. Yankees, number 5 with 99. Cardinals, 93. Guardians and Toronto tied with 92 wins.
Yep, I think under.
Under?
Yeah.
Yeah, but over 100 wins? Are they going to go back-to-back 100-win seasons?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, because those games that they're not going to be playing against the Braves and the Phillies are games that they'll be playing against bottom feeders.
Potentially, but these are also teams that we've never seen before.
That's true.
So,
and it's West Coast, and you know how West Coast trips go for East Coast teams. So.
Right. And, like even the Athletics give the Astros a lot of problem for some reason for them being a bottom feeder team.
Right? No, you're right.
They lost a couple of games to them. I think like 2 series to the A's last year. So I mean, these bottom feeder teams, they gonna want to play the Mets and they gonna want to play the Yankees, and they're gonna be playing the best they ever played in their life. You ever notice like when we play supposedly scrub teams, there's always a guy nobody's ever heard of torching the Mets. I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Every time.
So listen, I don't want to say, I don't want to say that all of those games is in the bag, but it should lead to some wins, some more wins, versus playing the tougher divisional games with the Braves and the Phillies and the Marlins, who's always tough on us. So, they definitely should get over 100 wins, but I think we're going to see more 100-win teams. I think that the Padres could do 100. I think the Phillies can do 100.
So you think the league is going to be more top-heavy this year than it was last year?
Yeah, I think there's going to be more teams that are getting either really close to 100 or that's over 100. Because some of these other teams don't lose the bad teams. Like the Braves, they don't lose the scrub teams.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
They smacked. That's the only reason why they won the division. They smacked all of them scrub teams and wiped the floor with them. Where the Mets had a little bit of problems. I think we lost a series to Chicago. We lost a series to the Athletics. That stuff, it happened to the Braves once they lost like a series towards the end to a scrub team. But for the most part, they wiped the floor with scrub teams last season and pretty much the last several seasons because they keep winning the division. So whereas we get to play the same teams as them, they not the Astros are not losing to no scrub teams except the Athletics. That's the only team that figures to have their number. So they're going to be in the mix. The Yankees, when they was healthy, they was beating everybody. And they're not going to be losing to, a bunch of scrub teams. So there's going to be a couple of teams. There was 4 teams with 100 wins last season, and there may be 6 to 8 next year.
I think 8 might be a bit of a stretch, but I could see 6 or 5 personally. Just because winning 100 games is so hard. I mean, and at the same time though, I think the Yankees are getting to 100. I think that pitching staff's going to get them there, and that's going to be scary, man.
Well, you're at 5 right there, so it could get to 8 because if you assume that the Mets is going to repeat and the Braves is going to repeat as 100-win teams, you already know what the Astros and the Dodgers are going to do. So that's already done. Then you say the Yankees, that's 5 because they.
Yeah, and I can see the Mariners doing it too because I'm actually really high on the Mariners going into this year.
They had 99 wins, the Yankees, so that's 5, and then you got San Diego and the Phillies. They had 87 years, and remember, Phillies had like a dreadful stretch during the regular season last year that I thought was I thought they were trying to get the manager Girardi fired,
right?
And then after he was fired, they won like 11 straight games or something.
Yeah. After they lost to the Mets.
Yeah. So, like they got a legitimate chance and the Padres are stacked. That's a stacked team. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about the Mariners winning 100, but I could definitely see the Phillies, San Diego Padres, and Yankees. That's 7 right there. That's why I said between 6 to 8.
Yeah, I could definitely see 6. 8 would surprise me, but I could 100% see 6, 7.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think there's gonna be more 100-win teams, and like even when I don't know if you remember that. I think what was it 2 years ago when the Dodgers and San Fran had like 105 plus wins in the same division.
Yep. That was last year. Not this last season, but the season before last.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. All right, a few more because we're coming up on time here. Strikeouts. Mets was number 1 in the league. They were number 1 in the league, 1565. They can't go over.
It's an easy under. Like,
Can they lead the league? Can they lead the league back to back in strikeouts? Because you know what Diaz is going to do. He was lighting them up with the strikeouts.
Yeah, I think if and I'm not saying that Verlander's even worse than DeGrom, which he definitely, like, overall at the moment in his career probably is slightly worse than DeGrom, even though he did pitch a 1.75. So, I mean, how much can I really say that? But I feel like with Senga being introduced and with Carrasco still being in the rotation, yeah, I really don't see us maintaining number one. I see us still in top 5, but that would still have to be, I'd have to go under. So under on the total being number 1, but I don't think it's a significant drop off like we're going to be number 8 or number 12 or anything like that.
I'm going over. Not over. I'm going the same. That the Mets will lead the league in strikeouts, mainly because we didn't have Max for a good significant portion of the season. We didn't have DeGrom for a good portion of the season. You know, we had some other injuries in the rotation. This rotation is supposed to be serviceable. This is supposed to be the real deal. You Senga about to come out, throw this what they call it, ghost ball or ghost fork.
Ghost fork. Yeah.
Whatever he got to do, he need to come out throwing that thing. And then we know what Verlander, a healthy Verlander, is going to give you. I'll say the Mets keep the same spot on the strikeouts.
Dude, and the bullpen. Like, our bullpen's nasty. Like, not even just the rotation. Like, we have 2 bona fide closers.
Right.
Like, Robertson, he's real good.
They supposed to be legit this year. I mean, the Mets are going to win the title, and we'll see. Real quick, saves. Mets were 15th, but this is a little misleading because they won 101 games. So I'm going to go over on the saves. That they will finish higher than 15. They had 41 saves last year. But when you're winning games the way that at the clip they were, there probably wasn't as many opportunities on that deal. So to me, like, opposing team batting average, Mets was 11 at 236. Over or under being 11th.
So opposing team batting average is 11th. So if we go higher, that means their batting average is lower, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go over/higher.
Yeah, I'm going to go over. Banking that Mad Max and Verlander give us the 25 plus games we need them to do this season. They do it, we should be pretty good. We should be pretty good on it. Okay, and then last one, home runs. This is actually a good stat. You don't want to be on the end of giving up a whole bunch of cookies.
No.
The Mets were 18th in the league, gave up 169 home runs. The fewest in the league was the San Francisco Giants, 132. The Mets give up more or less home runs. And they go up in the standings, which means they're giving up more home runs, or they go down in the standings, meaning they give up lower. So the under is good on this.
I think that they'll actually go over, and this is the reason why. I think that because we're moving in that right field wall, man, I think a couple extra home runs are going to leak out. Like, not that we're really going to pitch worse, but I think that extra 10 feet or 15 feet that Steve Cohen's moving in that right field fence, I think that's going to play a factor. I really don't think we're going to drop off in how we pitch, but I think just naturally an extra 10 home runs or an extra 7 home runs are just going to get out of there.
That is a pretty good perspective. I wish I was thinking about that when I went my over and under on the home runs, even though I went over anyway because the Mets don't.
Yeah, we're just kind of poised to go over, like we
Yeah.
He hit a lot last year.
But that's an interesting perspective. Last thing on that, though, who do you think that bringing in the right field benefits the most on the team?
Well, it would primarily benefit lefties. So honestly, that could really benefit a Vogelbach. That really could benefit a Vogelbach, man. Like not like an underrated benefit, but like there's a couple he hit right out to that wall where it was real close for them being out. But I can also see who else on our team hits lefty. It's Vogelbach. Who?
Nemo.
Nemo has, yeah, Nemo too. Nemo definitely too because Nemo
and Jeff McNeil's a lefty.
Yeah, I think Nemo out of all of them, but like I could also see McNeil hitting a couple out of the yard that he didn't last year because of that extra couple feet. But yeah, I'd say Nemo.
Okay, you go on Nemo. I'm gonna say McNeil. Granted, because he hit a couple up there, and we don't need him to hit for power, but if he sees a cookie coming, he'll put a good swing on it.
Oh, yeah. He's just a good hitter overall.
Yeah. And if he get a hold of a couple of those, maybe he get a few more home runs on it. Pete is kind of a pull home run hitter. He don't hit a lot of the right field. So I don't know if it's going to benefit him. Actually, the person that might benefit the most is Lindor. He's a pretty good lefty hitter.
Oh, yeah, he's a switch hitter.
And you got Escobar. So, at first I was wondering what the significance for the Mets to bring in the right field, but you got Escobar, Lindor, McNeil, and Nemo.
Is Beatty left-handed?
Huh?
Is Beatty a lefty?
Yes. Beatty is a lefty. Yeah. Beatty's a lefty. Let me double check.
I'm pretty sure he is. I know Alvarez is a righty, but I'm pretty sure Beatty is a lefty because it hit. I think I remember his swing against the Braves, and that was left field. That was right field.
Yes, he is a lefty. He hit. I remember that home run. Hit from the left, throw, bats left, hits right. Throws right.
Yeah, I like his swing too a lot. That Keith would not stop saying.
We might have to slow up on the jumping on the McNeil. I think I'm gonna go Lindor on who it benefits the most.
All right, yeah, I'm still gonna stick Nemo myself just because, like, he makes good contact with the ball, and I don't even think he hit 20 home runs last year, if I'm not mistaken. So I can see him at least hitting that 20 mark this year with that right field being pushed in.
Well, maybe Pete Alonso picks up on Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge's little poke to right field.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they just be slapping it. You throw an outside fastball to them, they just throw the bat out there. They get a lot of right field home runs. So maybe Pete Alonso takes a little page out of that book. I don't think it's going to benefit him the most, but it can't hurt. He starts smacking a couple of them that way. You know what I mean?
Hey, you never know.
Because Giancarlo, he always hitting them over there. He's smacking them things and the outside fastball right to right field, right out of the park in Yankee Stadium. They do it all the time. So look, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed our over-under. Great show today. We will do our over-unders for the players. That will be on their individual averages. And we will also do our division predictions. So that was going to be our next 2 podcasts, and I'm excited for it, man. I think the division prediction is going to be tough. I'm going to have to think about that all week.
I'm excited for that one. I want to do that one next, honestly. I really do.
Yeah.
Because then if we do that one next, it won't be like we're kind of talking about the same thing back to back. Because if we do this one and then we do just each individual player averages, we'll kind of be talking not the same exact thing, but,
right,
kind of similar back to back. But, yeah.
Team predictions next week. Love you guys.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you guys later.
I know you impressed with me. I can tell by the way that you look at me. Yeah, I'm amazing. I'm leaving the game with the same ones I came with. I'd rather be paid. I don't need to be famous. When I'm in the ring, they say I'm a ringer. Spin your head like an hour.